Hi everybody, it's Professor Ross and I'm here to talk to you about place value models. Why should we study place value models and think about using them with kids? There's several important reasons. Place value models are concrete, they're hands-on. Kids can actually manipulate them and use them as they count and think about place value, something to support their thinking as they work with place value models. Place value models support counting in three important ways. Counting by ones, and this is where students start. As they use place value models, they will count every individual one and come up with their count based on counting by ones. Then they can begin to think about counting by groups and singles. And with my 10 beans in each of these cups here, they could say, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3 groups of 10 beans, and I've got 8 additional beans, and try to decide what that means for them. Ultimately, they're going to work on counting by tens and ones. And so instead of saying 1, 2, 3 cups, they'd say this is 10, 20, 30 beans, and then count up to 38. So supporting counting in all three of those ways, important opportunities for kids to have. Lastly, they support the unitizing concept, which is the most important idea in place value. What is unitizing? Unitizing is this not necessarily intuitive idea that I can take 10 things, 10 individual beans, I can think about them as one thing, one group of 10. And so this idea of 10 becoming one means they make a unit out of 10 things. It's called unitizing, and it's really important that kids begin to take 10 things and think about them as a unit, because that underlies everything we want to think about with place value. So what kind of models do we have? There's two major types of models. One type of model is called a groupable model. It's groupable because the model comes in individual pieces, and yet it gives students the opportunity to group them together into groups of 10. And so we have several types of groupable models, and we'll take a look at those. Why are these important? They most clearly reflect the relationship of ones to tens for children. So as they work with the 10 blocks and stick them together into one, they're realizing, hey, I can make these 10 individual blocks into one unit. Once again, that unitizing idea comes through clearly as they take 10 things and group them together. The negative side of groupable models is they're more to manage. There's always lots of little individual pieces, and so they take more for the kids to manage, more for the teacher to manage, and so they take more work, and that's the downside with them. But they're an important place for kids to start. What are some of the types of groupable models we have? We just looked at a few. Any kind of counters that you can collect into cups. I've got beans here, and the kids would put 10 beans in each cup. Another great way to do it instead of cups is to use little plastic baggies. These are nice because they can be sealed up. The 10 things aren't going anywhere, and you can actually still look and see the 10s very easily. If you're looking at these cups from the side, it might be kind of hard to see what's in there. So this would be counters just grouped by cups or baggies, things like that. Another model we just looked at is Unifix blocks, and these are fairly small ones. They have bigger ones for younger kids, but the main idea is that you group these by snapping them together, and you can take 10 blocks, snap them together into a stick of 10. And another model you can do is with straws or popsicle sticks. Easy to get lots of these. I think I bought 1,000 of them for a couple bucks. But you take these 10 things, stick a rubber band around them, and you've just unitized a group of 10 into one group of 10. So, three slightly different models, but the same idea in all of them. You're taking 10 things, grouping them together. The other category of manipulatives we have, of models, is pre-grouped, and these are ones that come together and are not able to be separated into units. So here's a stick that looks like 10 pieces, but I can't break it up into 10. These are easier to manage, so you can deal with bigger numbers more easily. Kids are not going to lose the pieces or somehow not have 10. They're definitely going to get 10 in a group. Easier to manage for both the teacher and the students. The downside is students need to understand this idea of I can trade 10 ones in for one 10, and that's That's not necessarily an easy idea. So these are models we tend to use later with kids once they've had lots of times to do that grouping and start getting the unitizing concept down. What are some of our pre-group models? Here's one. It's that same unifix idea, except that we have sticks of 10 that can't come apart, and we have flats of 100 that can't be separated. However, these sticks can be stuck together so that they create a flat. These ones can be stuck together so you can build anything bigger out of the smaller pieces. Those are base 10 blocks. Here's strips and squares. Same kind of idea, just out of paper. So an advantage of this is it's really cheap. Just run off a few of these on the copier and cut them up. But we've got flats of squares of 10 here. Excuse me, of 100, strips of 10, and individual little squares. Disadvantage, you can't link them together in any kind of permanent way. But the nice advantage is real cheap and easy to make. And also we can use little 10 frames. And so lots of little 10s here for groups of 10, and then each of our individual numbers. Advantage of this, kids are real familiar with these models. You've been using them quite a bit, and they're understanding why it's important to group these 10 together. So those are groupable, pre-grouped models. So we've got